Hey, good morning. We are on Real Talk today, and we are not Jonathan and we are not Scott. I'm Sally Block, and I have the privilege of leading our resource management team. And with me this morning for Real Talk is Jim Seevers.
Good morning. I am the lay leader of our church and have the honor of chairing our mission and ministries team. And you'll hear more about that as we go through the discussion this morning.
Thanks, Jim. Hey, so why are Jim and I here this morning? Last week you heard Jonathan talk about our Charge Conference. And our Charge Conference, as a reminder, is coming up June 20th in Doe Fellowship Hall at 7 p.m. So please make sure you mark your calendars. During our Charge Conference, we'll have many opportunities to talk about the business of the church, but one of the primary things that we'll do during Charge Conference is first vote on a proposed budget as a missional tool. As Jonathan reviewed last week, some of the issues around our budget, we'll be able to cover those during Charge Conference. But the second thing that we'll talk about is our new governance structure. And there will be an opportunity for Charge Conference to vote on how we continue to structure the governance of Herndon United Methodist Church. So those are the things that Jim and I wanted to talk about this morning, primarily around the governance structure. About a year ago, right, Jim?
Yeah.
The executive team, so the executive team consists of Jim and myself, our senior pastor, Jonathan Page, and our director of communications, finance, and business operations, Julie Albanus. So we got together about a year ago and said, hey, is there a way that we can better utilize our resources in the church to live out our values, mission, and vision? So we took that question and amongst the four of us began to read and research and understand what other churches are doing and different ways to approach that. What we came to was something that's called a simplified accountability structure. And what that is—
Fancy word.
It is. It is. And, it's a little bit of a mouthful. But what simplified accountability structure did actually was take all of the administrative functions of the church and put them into one team, a resource management team. Prior to doing this, the more traditional method that we'd been operating under for quite some time was we had four groups that operated and took care of the functions of Herndon United Methodist Church. We had our trustees responsible for all of everything that evolves around our physical structure. We had our staff and parish relations committee that dealt mainly with all of our staff, our personnel needs, and our ministry needs. Our finance committee, clearly incredibly important to make sure that we continue to have a viable opportunity to live out our mission and ministries. And then coming above all of that was our church council. And then church council also included all the ministry opportunities and the lay leadership. So when we took those four and brought it into a resource management team, another way to think about it is we still have that current structure. So the resource management team is staff and parish relations. The resource management team is our finance team, and the resource management team is our council. Now, we still have trustees that operates as a separate entity. However, they're represented on the resource management team, basically because of the needs of our church right now. So trustees still operates, but is participating in, as does mission and ministries. And so that's how we've pulled together. And one of the reasons as we began our research that people go to and churches move to a simplified accountability structure is indeed a way to streamline and become more efficient in the way the administration of the church is handled, to allow for more opportunity to be in mission and ministry.
Absolutely right. In fact, Sally and I have both shared in the past, had the privilege of sharing as council chair on finance, on trustees, on staff parish relations committee. And what we realized is that when you try to take care of the governance of the church and at the same time expand our outreach and opportunities in accordance with our mission to share God's love and serve in community, then it's limiting in terms of the resources we have to be available. In fact, the Mission and Ministries team is operated as a separate organization specifically for that reason. So those who want to focus on ministries of the church, whether it's youth ministries, children's ministries, Top of the Hill Gang, men's ministries, women's ministries, and any of the other ministries in our church, can come together and collaborate and coordinate and communicate the best way to serve our community, both inside the walls of the church and in the greater Herndon community. So this gives an opportunity to split those two things while at the same time overlapping and staying connected, so that the resources of the church are aligned with the objectives of Mission and Ministries.
It's a great point. And as we talk about being able to serve in community, one of the other key components of the new structure is that instead of asking people to, hey, here are 4 administrative committees, we're going to ask you to serve a 3-year term and you'll rotate off, we have one committee that's made up of 9 people, but then the creation of action teams come into play. So, for example, next week we will vote on a budget that was put together by a budget action team. They took all the input from all the ministry areas. They spent a couple of days, weeks poring over it, gave 3 or 4 different scenarios for resource management to review and to propose. We had another action team just recently over the last couple of weeks pull together items out of our link building to allow for expansion in link. And so the action teams give an opportunity for all members of our church community to be in mission and ministry for either a short period of time or a longer period of time, as their spiritual gifts call them, and as the opportunities arise where there are needs in the church that are relatively short term. It's an opportunity for us to have more people involved in the opportunities around Herndon Church.
Yeah, absolutely right. And some examples of where that collaboration has taken place in small action teams around the church, outside, serving outside in our community, is our tailgate we have in the fall for prior to the first home high school football game, where all the church comes together. This gives us an opportunity in the mission ministries team to plan that well in advance and make sure that people who want to have an opportunity to serve in that way can do that. And it's a one-time event, once a year. We do the same thing with building health kits and backpacks and Rise Against Hunger. So there are tremendous opportunities. There are relatively short-lived, but give people an opportunity to engage in their passions and with their gifts and talents.
Excellent. So, Jim, why did we actually change?
Well, I think you hit on it earlier, Sally. I think it was to streamline the governance of the church. When you look at the fact that you have, for example, Staff Parish Relations Committee and Finance and Council, oftentimes decisions around the resources for the personnel aspects of our church took 3 months, because each of those committees would meet once a week and then make a decision and pass it on to the next committee. And now everyone comes together at one time. The other thing was that we found that in trying to squeeze both the mission ministries focus and the governance focus in a meeting once a month, really didn't give sufficient time to focus on either one of those 2 areas. So what we wanted to do was not only provide opportunities for people to use their gifts and their talents and pursue their passions either in an administrative area or a mission area, but to do it in a way that allowed us to provide sufficient time and resources to focus not only on what we're currently doing, but to pursue some of our strategic initiatives for the future.
Absolutely. When you looked at it, when we had the structure that had four separate committees, at any point in time, we would have 50 to 75 people involved on a monthly basis in just meeting and planning.
Mhm.
So the opportunity now for us to live out, if you would, our great commission as the reason we exist as a congregation, to be able to live that out and free up the opportunity for more people to be involved in it was one of the key components for us to move to this structure.
We also wanted to focus on expanding communication, and hats off to Julie, who has done and continues to do a phenomenal job at using every means of communication possible, whether it's websites, social media, newsletters, word of mouth, visiting with individual groups within the church, to ensure everybody's aware of what's going on. And that's obviously supported by Jen in maintaining the church calendar. But we also wanted a way to have sort of longer lead time, if you will, in the planning of some of those events, and more importantly, in providing opportunities for people to share God's love and serve in the community. So this gives us an opportunity to expand that communication, do it earlier, and coordinate participation to best serve our church and the greater Herndon community.
Yeah, when we passed this new structure as a pilot program at our last charge conference in December of 2021, what we said was, we're going to pilot this for 6 months. And we're going to take measures of how we're doing and how it's going. So let's talk a little bit about how this plan actually is helping us serve out our vision and our pursuits. We've already mentioned the reduction of the number of people that are in meetings. We've talked about the fact that this is designed to increase collaboration. Jim's been working very closely with multi-generational and community and arts within our strategic pursuits. And there's an opportunity there to help us live out those pursuits in this. And it also gives us a chance for members of our community to be involved at a smaller scale. And again, we talked about being able to leverage spiritual gifts. So the question is, how's it going?
Well, I must say that 6 months, by the time you get up and running, is a pretty limited time to do all the fine tuning that may be necessary to ensure that we are moving like a well-oiled machine. And so I'll acknowledge that up front. But on balance, I think there are tremendous advantages we've seen already. In mission ministries, for example, not only have we enhanced the collaboration and coordination and advanced planning, but each month we focus on a specific area of outreach, both in our community and opportunities within our church. Last month we focused on the upcoming activities for youth and children during the summer. This month we're focusing on local missions, as well as some plans for new programs supporting adult discipleship. So the opportunities have expanded, the communication has expanded, the collaboration has expanded, and there's still more to be done, but I think we've seen some very positive results so far.
We have, and I think I would say on the opportunities that we have are increased communication. As Jim said, any type of something that is new requires evaluation and tweaks as we go along, and we'll continue to do that as well. So next week at Charge Conference, there'll be a discussion and an opportunity for us as a church community to vote on how we move forward. So there'll be 3 options. First, the recommendation of the resource management team is that we adopt and move forward with this governance structure, understanding that we will continue to make tweaks as we see fit and as we continue to get feedback from our church community. The second option would be to continue this pilot. Give it another 6 months, see where we land at the end of 2022, and vote on it at that point in time. And then, of course, there's a third option that would allow us to just revert back to our former structure. You know, we've talked a little bit about how that would be somewhat difficult to unwind, but certainly that is an option. So those three options will be on the table next Monday night, June 20th, Doe Hall, 7 p.m. for our Charge Conference. Jim and I invite you to reach out to us or any member of the resource management team. If you've got questions about that, input, feedback, by all means, reach out to us. The information is on our church website. You'll be able to get us and find our contact information. But with that, thank you so much for listening this morning to Real Talk, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks a lot, folks. See you soon.